30 seconds. It is a Friday edition of Barn Burner. Welcome in, friends. And speaking of friends, we've got a special guest today. Rhett, hello from Nashville. Wacey Rabbit, assistant coach of the Saskatoon Blades, one of the greatest suitcases in hockey history. I believe we've chatted Croatia, Norway, San Antonio, and last we checked in, you were coaching in Port Alberni of the BC League, but Blades assistant. Welcome all of you in to the Tower Chrysler Studios, the Consumer Choice Award winners, Calgary's favorite Chrysler dealer. Visit them online, towerchrysler.com, or stop in at 10901 McLeod Trail South. Rhett, give us the update. Yesterday you were in the air. You've landed in Nashville. Last we checked in with you in Nashville was, 6 weeks ago? And I don't know if you could have spelt your middle name. You were a complete mess. You sent us a picture outside of Tootsie's last night. I'm very concerned. What's the update?
No, I'm in no way similar to the last time I was at Tootsie's. It was a tough go the last trip. This one's a little more tame. The shoveler's along. I got a kid along. We did the walk down Broadway and watched a few bands, but certainly not a late night. But ran into an old Calgary Flame.
Really?
And had an awesome steak. Mr. Jamie Lundmark. Was putting the team together, so ran into him. And I'm pretty sure when I was in Florida, you talk about where Wacey has all been. I'm pretty sure that he was down in FLA for a while, mucking about.
Was it the Everblades, or there was a team on the other side of the state, wasn't it, that you were playing? ECHL.
Yeah, we had the Solar Bears and the Everblades.
Yeah. And so you were playing there when we caught up with you as well.
I've been everywhere.
So Wacey's in town for a couple days. We thought we'd bring him in on a Friday. Dino is tied up with, I think, kid graduation stuff. So congrats to Dino kid graduation. He also has come bearing gifts, Rhett. A true gentleman, a class act, and a fan of the show since forever. So if you look right there, that is a Saskatoon Blades travel coffee mug. That is the most insignificant of the things he's brought. Now, Retro, you get pick of the litter. We got Blades lid 1.
Old school. Is that the old with the bridge?
Yep.
So
nice.
Blades, which is legit, and it's the fabric back. Or we have Blades lid 2, which is, well, that's pretty good. It's kind of got like the patch style yellow.
I like that one.
Mesh back. So you first your overall pick. There's 4 hats. Jack's getting one.
I like a mesh back, so I'll take the mesh back, but I do love that old Blades emblem with the bridge. It's a beauty.
There's no losers here. You're right. Great logo, but I just see this with you. That's such a fit. Like you can wear that to a fire pit. You can wear that to the rink, whatever you want.
Wear that to Tootsie's is what I should wear it to.
Oh, too late. Just missed you. No, it gets even better. Zip up Blades hoodie.
You know what's awesome is when my folks moved a couple years ago, I got a whole carton of Blades old school paraphernalia. So this is bringing back some more memories.
I was telling Wacey, you will not imagine how excited Rhett will be. He probably made $20 million and could buy any hoodie he wants, but he'll be jacked for the free Blades hoodie.
Yeah, I don't buy hoodies. I get free Blades hoodies from my buddy Wacey. That's the way you roll.
So these are both XLs. There's the, what would we call this? This is the navy blue. This is the baby blue, kind of. So you get pick as well. Navy or baby?
Well, I think that what has to happen, I got to try one of those bad boys on because it looked like a long sleeve shirt and it might be lost on me. We'll have to cut the arms off.
The legend of Rhett's
The knuckle
limbs.
dragger?
The knuckle
Yeah,
dragger.
There we go. Sorry, Rhett. I've heard.
He's got the wingspan of an NBA center.
It was good. It was the only thing. It was good for poke checks and keeping people a little further away, so it didn't take too many on the chin.
Yeah, your feet are at the blue and they're at the other blue, and you're poke checking. So good for you, man.
It's like trying to get past Zdeno Chara. How am I supposed to do this? He's got the legally lengthened stick and those arms. No way. Wacey, give us the update. Year one in the Western League for you as assistant. You were in the BC League as I feel like a skills coach assistant role, something like that. How did it come to be in Saskatoon? And tell us about the year. We actually ended up talking a fair amount of Blades hockey this spring because of the Bedard chaos came through Calgary. It was a sold-out Saddledome, and everywhere he went, we were watching. And then it was those last two regular season games, Regina, Saskatoon, and then the series to start. I feel like we haven't talked this much Blades hockey since Rhett was trying to buy the team.
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind year. I think probably around this time last year, I did sign my extension to go back to Port Alberni, and the Blades lost an assistant coach, and I am friends with Colin, who's the GM there, and he just asked if I was interested, and I talked to my wife, and it's a step up. I want to try and make it as high as I can as a coach, and I couldn't think of a better fit. I think it was a different Western League team, I probably wouldn't have gone, but because of Saskatoon and being there for 4 years, that it was kind of it fit. And they also brought my wife on to be the Rush, the NLL, the in-game host. So it was a family. It wasn't just us, like myself grabbing my wife. Like it was something for both of us.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. And the Rhettster being an alum couldn't be more proud. That's if you got to leave the BC League. I'm very fond of Rhett. You got to go to Saskatoon.
There's not many better Western Hockey League cities, to be honest with you. The city is the right size. It has, and the rink is a little maybe out of the way, but pretty good facility, especially for how old it is compared to there's a lot of new barns, I guess, in the Western Hockey League, but it's a pretty good setup in Saskatoon. You got everything you could ever need.
It's hard to explain to players that have never played in Saskatchewan in junior hockey. Like we have the Riders and now the Rush, but for junior hockey, you're a professional player there. Like everybody knows who you are. And like Retro said, Saskatoon's big enough where you can kind of get away with some stuff as a young man. But at the same time, it's really cool because you could be walking into Quiznos and someone will recognize you, ask you for an autograph.
Crazy. Love it. You sent us a photo mid-season and Rhett was like elated. Remind us of that, because I feel like you guys could share stories at a minimum for a bit on what sounds like a Blades legend.
The guy that could share the stories was the guy that he was in the picture with, who has been with the Blades since the 80s and done and seen it all. Plus, he was an undercover cop. The stories that Jerome Engel can tell, Buf, as we refer to him, if you've ever been part of the Blades Association, old Buf has helped so many guys in their careers. Some good advice, a little old school, maybe not. I don't know how much he's adapted, but an absolute gem of a man. Just one of my favorite coaches of all time.
Jerome. So we had a different head coach, and then Jerome came in with Lauren Mulliken.
Yep.
And he was a character. He would come by our steaks and just put his thumb right in our steaks or whatever we're eating, and he commanded authority. But he was so funny. And when I came back this year, he was kind of a liaison. He's what we call security, because all WHL teams need security.
Okay.
And I don't think the players, because it's our younger guys didn't understand who Jerome was and how tough he was. And they were, he was trying to give them advice how to fight. And some of these guys didn't know how to fight. And when he's talking, you listen when it comes to that. And like you said, Retro, there's some of his life advice we would turn around in video when he would be talking, and it wouldn't have to do anything with hockey, just some of his advice, and we turn around and make sure that there'd be eyebrows looking towards him.
He has coached, Pinder, some of the toughest guys to play. Tony Twist, Joey Koser, Kelly Chase, Wendell Clark, Wade Belak, Chris McAllister. For a while, was right up there. Yes, it's a good list.
And he was telling us a story. I don't really want to get into it, but he's been shot at undercover.
Really?
He's infiltrated some pretty high criminal organizations. It's pretty crazy. And he's lived a wild life, and just for him to be around, and it's pretty cool.
I love it. Okay, so Wacey, I want to talk a little bit with you. We'll get to some Flames stuff. Wacey's a big Flames guy. Actually, why don't we do this? When did you start listening to the show? Because Wacey started reaching out, I want to say almost a decade ago, and is fan of the show, sending us content. Hey, you guys made my day. I had a crappy night in country I've never heard of, but you guys' show was awesome today. It feels like you've been one of our boys since, at least since I've been around on this program.
Yeah. So my last year in the American Hockey League was in San Antonio. It was the year before the lockout, and I didn't really know where I was going to play. Then I had an opportunity to go to Norway, and I think Retro, you were on with Walks and Boomer, and it was probably 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I had nothing to do. I was playing Call of Duty, so I turned on like what Canadian, like the Sportsnet or whatever it was at the time. And you guys were on, and you guys were actually pretty funny, and you guys had really good insight. And I just, because it was on so early, but it was middle of the day wherever I was in Europe, that I just, I became a fan.
So 3 years in Norway, a year in Japan, 2 years in Italy, a year in the East Coast League, back over to Czechia, so Czech Republic or Slovakia, depending, I guess be Czech Republic.
Yeah.
Then back to the East Coast League, Jacksonville. We chatted with you when you were in Jacksonville. Then you go back over to Romania, then back to the East Coast League in Florida again. This is unbelievable. You've traveled the world with hockey, man. Like Rhett's done well. He never left the continent.
I think my end goal was to be where Retro was, but I was just kind of trying to stay afloat. And I think at that point when I wasn't going to make the NHL, I said, why not? Right. Get the opportunity. My wife, came to live with me in Czech, and my parents got to visit Japan.
Wow.
So like, these are just opportunities. I used hockey as a vehicle, and, I wouldn't change it for a thing. I think everything happened for a reason. I am where I am today.
Tell us about your wife. She's had an incredible career that's taken her around the world a bit as well.
Yeah. So Ashley, her name's Ashley Callingbull Rabbit now. She calls herself Ashmeister. She's done a lot. She had a really tough upbringing. Okay. And she's used that to, uplift others, especially women, Indigenous women in particular. She was the first Indigenous model to pose in Sports Illustrated. She has a book coming out. She's now in-game host for the Rush, the NLL team in Saskatchewan, for the guys up north, the Elks.
Yeah, the football team that doesn't win at home. Yeah,
she has a lot of titles. She's an actress as well, but most of her work, she does a lot of motivational speaks. She goes through a lot of communities within North America, Indigenous communities, and she tells her story because it is pretty like uplifting. And when her book does come out, I feel it's going to be for everybody, not just for Indigenous people, but just people that deal with adversity and how she handles it, and she turns into such positivity. And I'm so proud because she makes me a better man.
Yeah.
And at the same time, she's crazy. She's wild. I love her, and she's always down for a good time.
Well, and you're selling her short on the modeling stuff. Like I go to her Twitter, and it's like magazine cover, magazine cover, magazine cover, magazine cover. Like this isn't there was this one thing we did. Like that was a significant chunk of her life, was traveling around and being a model.
Yeah. And, right now it's an opportunity for, I think, because she had a really tough time during COVID because a part of her thing was traveling. So we got to go down to Florida, but, she worked on herself. And now it's kind of like everything's opening up all over the world. Yeah. That she was just in Cannes last week. She was at
at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah, Cannes or Canes or whatever, the film festival.
Right.
Yeah. And so like she's somewhere every week, and now like our off season's kind of ours, but she's got a lot on her plate, and she does a really good job juggling it.
Well, and I know it's been important to you, not unlike her, to give back to First Nations communities, and you've been running hockey camps in this part of the world for a while. I know you're busier now with the new gig, but why was that something that was important to you and continues to be?
Well, my first, I guess my identity as a hockey player and Indigenous person was, I don't know, Retro, if you remember the name Shane Peacock. He was a Lethbridge Hurricane, great Player. He's from Enoch First Nations, and I was 6 or 7 when he played with Lethbridge, and my reserve was outside Lethbridge. Mm-hmm. And I recognized that I looked like him, and he was an absolute star in Lethbridge. So I said, if he can do it, why can't I? And, I never made the NHL, but I got to do some really cool things, and I've got to meet some really cool people and make a career of, hockey, so that any young person that wants to pursue something that, there are opportunities are there, but you're going to have to work for it. There's going to be some ups and downs. I've been told no than more times than I've told yes, but I really enjoy, working with our youth and making sure that whatever their door they step into, they feel like they belong.
To be the peacock for whoever they are, right?
Yeah,
in terms of just like there's a pathway here. Don't feel like there's dead ends. You keep working.
Well, I think somebody, like Jordan Tutu, Ted Nolan, they kind of open the doors for First Nations people that, it's just leave it better than you found it. That's what I always tell our players and our young kids, that wherever you go, give something, and, making sure you're giving something positive back.
Okay, so Wacey's big Flames guy, big listener / viewer of the show. He's saying he's sometimes YouTube, sometimes the podcast, Rhett, when he's riding the bus in the Western League. So I need to run this by both of you. Yesterday, it was John Bender we had in. We talked a lot of CFL with Jay McNeil, the vice president of the Stamps. It was not the right audience to spin a hockey trade on. We tried. It was fine, but I need the great minds, the former Blades brains to weigh in on this. So one of the craziest trade I've heard floated, Rhett, and you'll get an occasional, what about this, what about that? But this one, for whatever reason, is really resonating with people, given that Connie's brand new and given that we don't know a ton, I guess, about what's going to happen next in this offseason. So this is Aaron Portzline and Julian McKenzie. Julian covers the Flames for The Athletic. Portzline covers the Blue Jackets. The conversation is about Elias Lindholm to Columbus, Rhett, where he'd be reunited with Johnny Gaudreau. He, of course, has 1 year left on his deal. The key for Columbus, says Portzline, is if he's willing to sign an extension or not. The Blue Jackets wouldn't make a trade straight up number 3 for Lindholm if he doesn't sign. If he does sign an extension, it's a trade the Blue Jackets could get excited about. Lindholm is not only in his prime at 28, but has shown previous success with Johnny Gaudreau. We've seen their chemistry. It's impressive. So if Lindholm were to sign an extension, I don't know what the plus would be, or if it would have to be that massive. Lindholm with an extension and maybe a second round pick to Columbus for number 3 overall. Now, this is not what we've seen from the Flames. Win now mode, make playoffs now, always make the playoffs. But number 3 overall could be a face of the franchise, like your next set, of jerseys you drag up to the rafters. Number 3 overall is likely a number 1 centerman. It's Bedard 1, it's Fantilli 2, and then after that, it's Leo Carlson or Will Smith, very high-end number 1 center profiles. I'd never really thought about Lindholm for a pick that high, and maybe this is completely unrealistic, but it's an interesting conversation about how quickly the Flames could pivot.
And I think that's the important part, right? Is what's Conroy's vision for this team? I've brought it up so much. They were close, but you have to either find some faith that you believe that being close meant they needed a save, and they're just a spot away from making the playoffs and having a Florida Panther type run, or you take a longer term view and you do a trade like that. Again, there's the ifs, ands, or maybes of that trade, or this or that. I don't know who the number 3 pick is. I don't know everyone talks how good the draft's going to be, but if you don't think that you have the right chemistry in that room, signing Lindholm to another long-term deal, I really think handcuffs you. You're going to have him aging, Kadri aging. We know Huberdeau has to bounce back, but Kenny, I don't know. And right? And he's going to be in his 30s. He's going to decline eventually.
Uyghur 30s.
Backlund's getting older. My guts tell me, and it's a bit of a bias because it's been a while since the Flames kind of did it with the Bennett, Monahan, Kachuk era of drafting. I would rather go that way. I would make that trade. I would start to build a youth movement. You've got goaltending. Keep your Markstrom. You got Wolf coming in. You've got Vladar, who's been very good. Who knows what he even is? So you've got solid goaltending. You've got defensemen that are good. Keep those guys together and build from the defense out. And if that means moving Lindholm, again, though, the catch to me would be, can I get rid of other guys? I mean, I know I could trade Michael Backlund.
Yep.
If he agrees to go. But are Kadri and Huberdeau the guys to lead a youth movement? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Can you move one of them? Is one of them more suited to take someone under their wing than another? You need to see bounce backs from both of them. Neither of them showed you in year 1 that they are those guys. You hope you see something different in year 2. What do you think of when you see that sort of trade out there? And it doesn't have to be that trade, but the idea of taking someone in their prime and turning that into someone that's got 15 years on a career yet to begin.
I agree with Rhett. Just in the junior hockey, how it is, you look at the skill that you're probably not going to wait that long for this pick to pan out. You look at who's in the Final Four. in that pick, there's Heiskanens, there's Eichels. All these teams have those high end picks.
Yeah.
So I think for Conroy, for him to really put his mark on this, it would be an ideal if you can pick that high. Why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, and we've heard so much about this draft class, and that doesn't mean that every kid's a superstar. And we know Bedard will be that. Fantilli, is there a ledge there? Is it a true center? Maybe a guy ends up on the wing, and that's sort of what you're saying, right? There's all these little nuances about it, but the idea of taking a guy about to get to 30 who's in his prime and turning it into an 18-year-old, that's one that I don't think we've thought about much over the last 5 years here. And to be fair, you didn't have reason to think about it until you saw this team faceplant this year, and now a new GM, a new vision.
Well, and I think they did do it with like I said, we overlook, and I'm the worst for it. I have to remind myself that they went through a downtime and they got Gaudreau, and the Gaudreau one's a bit of a fluke, to be honest with you.
And
You can call it,
right?
Yeah, but you got Tkachuk and you got Bennett and you got Monahan, all top 6 picks. That was supposed to be your base. You hit a home run with the Gaudreau thing. They did do it, and you know what? It was working out. It was in the right trajectory. It fell apart.
Yeah.
Right? For whoever, it's not a fault thing. It's not one reason for this. Shit happens. It happened. I just think you retool and do the same thing, because if you had been able to keep Gaudreau and Tkachuk and Monahan had kept scoring and hadn't got injured, and Bennett had played the way right now, the way he's playing in Florida, you would be in a situation where other teams would be dreading playing you, right? Rebuild that.
Yeah.
Rebuild that. Because hanging on to this group of assets, I think you're just taking a risk, because it didn't work the 1 year they were together. Blame it on Darryl if you want, but they're just older. It's another year older. And like Wacey said, the kids these days they're not long-term projects. They're highly skilled. They've been groomed from a young age. That going to the NHL is it's a big deal, but they all get massaged. They all get stretched. They all have physio. They all have nutritionists. They all have trainers. They're ready for the big time sooner rather than later in today's world.
Yeah, that's fair. Want to switch gears. You said you ran into a former Flame yesterday. A lot of people in Calgary did that, and it would be hard to find a former Flame outside of Calgary. Yesterday was the Flames Alumni Masters Golf Tournament. What was the feedback you got? I know I saw some videos with Regier. Commodore is back. He's helping run it. Those two have spearheaded it. Prior to that, what was it? Jamie McCowan and others.
Dana Burson was doing it all on his own for the longest time.
What have you seen and heard?
Pardon me?
What have you seen and heard from yesterday's tournament?
I haven't heard much. I've kind of had the phone off because I was hanging out with Lundmark and we were out for dinner, so I didn't hear much. But I know that Reggie and Crombie, last year I was at it. It was awesome, well organized. Pritis does a great job of having guys and what a course to go play. So I haven't heard anything, but I got to expect it was a home run again.
So I don't know if it's the same date every year. Sometimes it's like sideways rain and 2 degrees. Other days it's perfect. Yesterday would have been great. They picked the right date yesterday, and we'll explain why with McLeod Law as we go down memory lane. Peter Klein at McLeod Law as the personal injury guy, but did you know he's also the go-to guy in Calgary for disability insurance claims? If your long-term disability insurance company is refusing to pay insurance benefits to you, contact Peter. He'll get you the disability benefits you paid for and that you deserve. He'll get you peace of mind back as well, the peace of mind that you paid for. So if you're having disability claim issues, Peter's there to help. Speaking of their memory lane, Calgary guys, roots in the city, May 25th was yesterday. Here's May 25th, the day Lanny McDonald will never forget.
Calgary Flames, 1989, Stanley Cup champions. It takes nearly a lifetime for many hockey players to reach the ultimate. For many more, even a lifetime is not enough. You've done it, Lanny. You've done it.
1989 yesterday, and that's an old one. You can see the NBC logo in verses. It's been a while since the league was there, but yesterday was the anniversary, Rhett. So those old 89 goats on the golf course yesterday also had the anniversary to celebrate. Not just the golf tournament, the anniversary as well. Holy crow.
They should have had the cup out there. Wonder if they could pull that string right now.
That would be something. But that's a double up. If it's like the $72 for every year, you celebrate.
Wacey, it's painful around that city of Calgary. Just painful. Every time you run into an 89 guy, he's got a stupid ring on, and gee, braggy brag. Way to go. It's never ending. So I'm kind of glad I didn't have to golf yesterday. I got so sick of those old bastards telling me how great they were.
A couple headbutts thrown out, Rhett.
I like the 04 team in a Royal Rumble, to be clear. If we're picking sides, I like but I mean, they got the jewelry, buddy, and I'm sorry.
Yeah. I'm happy for the franchise. It's great.
So that's from McLeod Law, proud Calgary roots, May 25th, 1989. Were you even alive yet?
I was 3.
You were 3.
True story that my mom, when I was like 5 or 6, she would play that when she didn't need to babysit me. And I would
put it in the video,
and I would the VHS, and I would just play hockey in front of it. So,
amazing. Was that the Sea of Champions video? There's
I
a
think
few.
So yeah, I think it was.
The Sea of Champions one was the one I grew up on, and it was the same thing. Whether it was at the cabin or in the winter, you could pop that thing anytime, and round by round, all the way to the Cup final, behind the scenes interviews. That was pretty legendary stuff.
Well, Retro, I'm not going to take anything away from the 89, but I was 17 when you guys went on your run here. I was with the Blades that year. You came in because Mooner brought you in to talk to our team, and I won't say what you said, but it wasn't really regarding us beating the Hitmen. It was just more life advice that, we took into advance, but also that a little bit later that you got me out a lot of high school classes because you guys won and you guys weren't expected to win, and you just kept going. And so I never got to personally thank you. So thank you.
Were the teachers that enthusiastic that they would be
I don't know if they're enthusiastic, but it was like Mayish, so I don't know if they're lazy.
Yeah,
and everybody was just getting on the bandwagon, but they knew how excited we were, and we were kind of tired from being at 17th. They were kind of. It was just the perfect storm, the Flames were buzzing, and the high school teachers were probably buzzed and hungover.
You might have seen your teachers there. I know I was in university. It was not, there was, everyone was there celebrating.
Yeah.
Clothes optional. It was good times. So that's your McLeod Law visit for the day. We got a Pinder report as well to get to, Retro, but I want to talk about your Cats. I don't know that we've chatted with you since the Tkachuk scored that game winner with 5 seconds left. This is salt in the wounds for Flames fans, but as a former Panther, like the vibes are immaculate right now for the Panteros, Retro.
I don't typically find myself cheering for teams in the playoffs. If you've got a buddy like Brian Campbell in Chicago, I was cheering for the Blackhawks but just for him to win, it had nothing to do with the Blackhawks. I'm genuinely excited about the Panthers. I mean, I know it pulls at my heartstrings because I played there, and it's, you're an alumni and this and that, but I love the energy and the feel of that team. They remind me a lot of our 04 run in Calgary, where you got the goaltender doing everything, and you got Tkachuk playing like a Ginla, and everyone's bought in and everybody's behind that squad. I don't think there's many people out there that aren't cheering for the Panthers right now.
Yeah, no, it's a fun group to get behind. The salt in the wounds is there's 3 former Flames there. Ryan Lomberg, okay, bit part, so to speak, but love the tenacity he plays with. That one slipped through your fingers. You could see what Treliving liked in him, bringing him in and, having him around. It just never happened that he caught on the big squad. And then, you're seeing what you loved about Sam Bennett in Calgary, which, to be fair, wasn't a ton, but playoff Sam Bennett was pretty damn good as a Flame. And there's a lot of old man strength playoff Sam Bennett you're seeing. And Matthew Tkachuk is finally turned into playoff Matthew Tkachuk, the guy that terrorized teams and came up with big goals all regular season, never really put it together in a series for the Flames in the postseason. And we look back and obviously it was just a matter of time, because here he is, 20 points? Holy shit.
I think sometimes we do underestimate how hard it is for, you call them kids, but for guys to go play in the NHL playoffs. It's a different beast, right? It really is. And sometimes it takes a while. You think of Ovechkin winning it once and getting beat out all the time, and I can't get it done, and numerous other guys like that. And it's one team wins, just one team wins. Everything has to go right. You have to avoid injuries. You have to get the right matchups. Your goaltender has to be unbelievable. Your top guy's got to score when you need a goal. I mean, it's so to say guys fall flat, we probably jump the gun a lot. Get knocked out. You think about the team of Carolina. Wow, they didn't win. They should have won. How many goals did they lose? They 4 straight by 4 goals total for a lot. Like, unbelievable how tight that series is. It could go either way on a drop of a hat, right? Like, it's that series could have went either way. It's a tough road to that Stanley Cup.
Well, and even just talking about Tkachuk and that stage, I mean, I don't think he wasn't ready for it or wasn't amped up enough. It was almost too much. Like, do you remember him and Klimberg at the beginning of the Stars series last year? And you're like, dude, play your game. Don't get tied into this nonsense where you're off the ice and now, I got to fight this guy. And it felt like he was too up, that he kind of forgot what got him there in a way. And he's only going to learn from that experience. And a year later, phenomenal playoff performance.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah, please.
So, what Rhett was going back to, everything adding up, and you talk about the cores that only win and Ovechkin. You need to be battle tested. Yeah. Right. And Tkachuk, Bennett, they've had their downs. Unfortunately, it was with Calgary, and you can see them. They just go in with this confidence, and it's the cores that win. They have been battle tested. Like, Ovechkin had to go through it. The guys that have won that they couldn't save for the longest time couldn't win. Look at Stevie Yzerman. Yep. It took him forever to win, but he was battle tested. He'd been through all these ups and downs. And you looked at this shining, the light of the playoffs is just not as bright for Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk, because now they've been through it. Okay, well, I've been through the media saying this and this one, but tomorrow's a new, I guess I'm still breathing. Yeah. I'm still alive. Like, it's not the end of the day and the end of the world. So
it's a good point.
It's very true. You have to go through it. And there's I was lucky we went on a run my first year, but I remember when I got traded to Buffalo. So my first year, I'm not a veteran. I'm just along for the ride. We make it to the finals, and we had a hell of a run, and Colorado kicked our ass in the final. But anyway, you learn from it and you move on. When I got traded to Buffalo, I remember the first game we were playing. I've told this story before, but for people that haven't heard, we're playing in Ottawa against a team that the lineup was deep. They were a juggernaut of a squad. And I remember sitting in the dressing room in Ottawa, looking around the room, kind of, holy, how are we going to match up against this guys? But there was a calmness, and Daryl Shannon came up to me, goes, "Are you not, you look like you could have a nap. Are you not?" I'm like, "Well, I'm jacked up. I'm absolutely amped to play this, but I'm not I'm not scared of it. I'm not you're nervous, but it's a controlled emotion, a controlled nervous, because you've been through those ups and downs and battles before, and that squad hadn't been. So everyone has to learn the peaks and valleys and how to just kind of maintain an even keel and make sure that you continue to focus on where you're trying to get to. Getting caught up in a one guy pissing you off, or a bad bounce here, or a shitty injury there, it's irrelevant. You have one goal and one goal only. Focus on that.
Yeah, and they're favored right now. I know obviously Vegas isn't through. They're going to have to lose 4 in a row. They've lost 1 in a row. But the team with the fewest amount of points that made it in the playoffs, 92, one less than the Flames, a team that needed Pittsburgh to stub their toe against 2 of the 3 worst teams in the league, their last 2 games of the year. Favored for the Stanley Cup, Rhett, which
well, Wacey, here a question for you. My concern now with Vegas losing last night is, if I'm the Panthers, I don't want to sit around too long. You've got things going, and you do not want to lose that momentum. Do you think there's anything to that?
I'm a big believer in momentum. Like, if you're feeling something, if you have your routine, as a player, you have a routine, right? Okay, well, now what are you doing for 3 or 4 days, right? And you want to keep that. It'll be interesting, and I'm cheering for Vegas. Dallas was my team, but just to get 2 teams that are absolutely at the top of their game, I feel it's best that they play quicker and play sooner.
Yeah, I'm ready for the final. I mean, if Dallas wants to be the 5th team in the history of the league, come back 3-0, that'll be entertaining, but it's more likely just feeling like we're drawing out something we already know how it's going to end, which is it's going to be Vegas and Florida. And we'll get to it in the Pinder Report. Depending what happens in game 5, depends on the start date for the Stanley Cup. There's 2 dates they'll start. That's it. So it's either way down the line where you leave room for 7 games and a break, or it's going to be soon after a game 5 victory for Vegas. So if you want momentum for teams is one thing. For us, like if this ends on Saturday, we get to keep watching hockey and not like have a huge gap. And let's go. These 2 teams are playing great. I want to see them head to head. Anyway, we'll get to that in a bit. Anything else retro in front of mind? We haven't chatted since Wednesday. You got kid hockey there. How many days in Nashville?
Well, we'll be here till Sunday. Depends if we get our asses kicked. We'll be done coming home Sunday night. But if things go as planned and this Lundmark character can coach the way he brags, then we'll be playing deep into Monday. Oof, big.
You can tuck you under his wing, take Rhett along with him for this incredible coaching ride all the way.
He has so much more. We were sitting around. I hadn't seen him forever. We're sitting at the steak joint last night, and he coaches, and his kids are good, and they're all doing well in school. And he's got philosophies on coaching, and he's got method. It's called Method Hockey out in Philly. He runs the whole program, and I'm like, holy! I have a hard time getting to the rink on time. So he's got things organized pretty good.
It's yin and the yang, right? This is perfect. Yeah.
It's funny too, because Jordan Leopold's kid is going to play in this tournament as well. They ran into those guys at the airport. But seeing there's a whole ton of guys that are running around. This JP Dumont, who I played with in Buffalo's picking me up here to go for a Nashville hot chicken sandwich. Just get some spice. So it's fun. There's lots of guys kicking around.
Last one before we get into the Pinder Report. Wacey in Saskatoon has got some Mitch Love ties. He obviously was in the organization before coming to the Stockton Heat / Calgary Wranglers. He's obviously a prime candidate for the Flames head coaching job. What do you know about Mitch? What can you tell us about this guy that, is on the board as a candidate?
Well, I know Mitch just, playing against him in the Western League and the American Hockey League and passing by, like we're cordial. We'll say hello. Our head coach, Brendan Sawney, him and Mitch were assistant coaches under Kevin Constantine. So, just seeing how they prepare, how thorough and detailed and just of how they do their business, that I couldn't be under a better, I guess, a tree or umbrella of coaches to learn from.
Sure.
And just seeing how Brennan, he's a big Constantine, like Kevin Constantine, just how prepared and detailed it is. So I can't see how far off Mitch would be. I've never, seen him prepare or coach, but when you've done what you've done in the American Hockey League with, just, the inconsistency of rosters, and the ups and downs, but just how good he's been able to, constantly produce players that are ready to play in the NHL or the teams that are, succeeding at that level. It's really hard to do at that level. And Mitch is, I couldn't think of a better time for him to be a coach in the NHL.
So we talked about this, Rhett, I want to say like 2 months ago. And in one breath, it's like, oh my gosh, coaching in the A would be great because everyone's motivated. Everyone's a good performance away from a theoretical call up and adding a 0 to the end of their salary. And like, it shouldn't be hard to put a carrot in front of a player. But you alluded to something that I was always reminded of. There are so many bodies that pass through. Like you might have 45 guys over the course of a year, and it's just continually teaching and reinforcing, and your best players get taken away from you. They go up, and you get guys down that are in the dumps and dejected, not being in the NHL anymore. I mean, there's some challenges that come in that league that you don't see in other leagues. You get problems, and your good players get taken from you every year.
Yeah, and you talked about the NHL players that come down. There's the ego of that. I've been a part of some teams that, those guys that they have the bottom lip that's been hanging. And
sure.
The guys that are career AHLers that, I need to stay in this league to feed my family. And then you have the up and coming guys so the mix of ego that is in an American Hockey League, the room is kind of wild. And I've been fortunate. Bruce Cassidy was my coach in Providence. Scott Gordon who's in San Jose. So I've been around some like really, really like coaches and just how they handle that.
Yeah.
It is like that. I feel that'd be harder than coaching at the NHL sometimes, just because the inconsistency and the characters that you have to deal with. I mean, everybody's professional. Don't get me wrong. At the same time, that it's completely different animal down there.
Yeah. You any more thoughts on Mitch, Rhett? The more you think about these candidates, or is it just same as we've been for a couple of weeks? He's a great candidate, internal guy.
He's a great candidate. I think the only way you find out more and who's the right fit is to know the players in the room better, which we don't because we're not in the room, and to sit in on interview process with the coach, understand. And again, I feel like I repeat myself. What's the vision Conroy has for the organization? Yeah. Right. Well, what's the vision for Conroy, or that Conroy has for the organization? Are we going younger? Does Mitch Love fit in more with a younger team? I said on the show this week, Wacey, I said, I think Mitch is a great candidate, but this room ran a coach they ran Daryl Sutter out of town, right? Yeah. Like a veteran coach, and they put the boots to him, really. Like they were, whether it was justified or not, they got him out of there.
Yeah.
Is that a great situation for a first-year coach to go into a room? If the room's the same, I don't know. Like I wonder about that.
We could cut both ways, right? They might be thrilled that it's not Daryl, and the other might be like, you're telling us what to do? Like, you don't even know where the door is to get in this rink. Like, sorry, bud. Yeah. I could see either. Right?
I'm sure he's got respect from the players, but that's something he's going to have to be comfortable with if they're going to give him that job.
When you hear Constantine, like Wacey had mentioned that before the show.
Sweater.
And I'm like, ooh, structure.
Sweaters. Wasn't Kevin Constantine the guy that wore the sweaters, or who was that?
Robbie Ftorek.
Oh, Robbie Ftorek. That's as soon as I heard Constantine, I'm like, oh, Wacey's wearing sweaters on the bench. Beautiful.
No.
You wish we could wear sweaters.
But I think structure and defense and supremely organized. Like, players know where they're supposed to be. And I don't know enough about Mitch as a coach. And I'm like, how is he doing this? This isn't a really veteran-heavy AHL club that he's coached for 2 years. He does have a great goalie. They've had some good offensive players. But when I hear Constantine, it's almost like, okay, now I see a little bit more. Like, I haven't watched the team enough to say, oh, this is, their forecheck, and here's how they defend. And, they're either they let the horses run or they're really tight defensively. Like, Constantine, that kind of helps explain a little to me, at least. But that might not to you. And I worked with a guy that worked with Kevin forever in Troy Ward in Abbotsford. So that's a connection to me. Maybe that's why that happens.
I'm going to add on something here too, just with the Mitch Love hiring. You look at Conroy, he was hired within, he was promoted. Okay. Now, if you're bringing up Mitch, you're promoted, you're keeping everything in-house. And as an outside player, you're looking at that and you're saying, I would like to be a part of that. Or if you're a coach, I would like to be a part of that. That's just not just, you're going to grab the sexiest pick or the sexiest coach. You're building within, and that's how you win. Is you build within, because the person who you're going to war with. Yeah. Right. Because I feel like as a player and as a former player and as a coach, that loyalty and trust, that's where you get the most out of the people that you work with. They might not be as talented, but they look at you and say, you gave me an opportunity, or the players see that. And I like that you talk about, winning teams and winning culture. And that's where I'm a firm believer, is that's where it starts. Yeah.
It's also like turnover's tough. If you're reloading guys every 2-3 years with different philosophies, that's, and so what you see now is a coaching staff, theoretically at the NHL level next year, that might have 3 guys that have come up through the American League team to the big club. And I'm not going to say everything's same, but what you do want to have is you hire good people. They're good. You promote them because things are going well. And at the American League level, that has been the story. The question is, are those guys the ones to fix what hasn't gone well at the NHL level? And time will tell. I want to tell you about Green Drop. Finally, everyone in your neighborhood, Rhett's going to be talking about your lawn for the right reasons. Green Drop, easier than you think. Choose one of their lawn fertilizer programs, from the beautiful basics that includes micronutrients and weed control, all the way up to the beautiful premium package that adds aeration, overseeding, and the Green Drop exclusive soil booster to help your lawn get healthy and lush all summer. One of the greenkeepers will stop by, do all the work for you. Just a few minutes and 100% guaranteed. If you aren't satisfied, they'll make things right. Go to greendrop.ca for more. What's the state of the foliage in Nashville? Is it full summer there right now or what?
The shoveler was stunned. She's like, "Oh, I thought this would be like the prairies and flat and scrub brush and hilly, forested, beautiful country." So she was blown away. And speaking of Green Drop, and a wonderful job they do, Boomer's kid had the graduation yesterday. So did my nephew Dax. And then the family decided to use my yard because it's in such beautiful shape because of Green Drop. They're over in the backyard making a mess of things, the buggers. So thank you, Green Drop, for taking care of me.
So what kind of a fee are they paying you? You're not even living in the house. Green Drop's coming.
Yeah, what do you do, Wacey? How much do you charge the family for rent when they come show up at your house uninvited? I don't know. I don't know.
My wife does that. My parents come. She gets everything, ready for them, and then she just hands them an invoice. So I don't know what she just here you go. Thanks for your stay. Here's your invoice.
Warner Consulting Services. Here's your invoice. Hope you had a great time in the backyard.
Yeah.
Let's do the Pinder Report. Lots of hockey stuff to get into. We do that as always for Village Honda. The $1 million buy-in event continues. They're going to pay you top dollar for your used vehicle, and they'll throw in a tropical cruise to boot. Go ahead, Rhett.
I got a blast. You do the Pinder Report. Wacey, awesome. Great job in Saskatoon. Say hi to everyone back there for me. Proud of you, buddy.
Thanks, Retro.
And we got a hoodie and a hat waiting for you in studio, Rhett. Hopefully you're back sometime soon.
I'll look sharp. All right. Good luck, boys.
See ya.
See ya.
All right. There's Retro from Nashville. See ya indeed. It's funny. He never said anything about leaving early, and now poof.
Yep.
Like a fart in the wind.
It's like a ninja, man. You never know when he's here. You never know when he's gone.
He does that too. We did our first live event, the playoff draft. April 16? It's around then. Yeah, for a couple days for round one of the playoffs. And classic Rhett. It's life of the party, chatting with everyone, shaking hands, having a few drinks, and then it's like
the Houdini.
You always do ninja vanish. Yeah, my brother calls it the smoke bomb, which I like because
I like that. Yeah,
but Houdini's same thing, and then Boomer Houdini as well. And Jack and I were the idiots that ended up hammering a glass of wine at about 2 a.m. The last thing we needed on earth. Long night. Anyway, to the Pinder Report for Village Honda, villagehonda.com. Again, get a piece of that $1 million used car buy-in event and a tropical cruise. Sounds good. We start with the rumored coaching candidates of the Calgary Flames, Wacey. As it appears, we have from Pierre LeBrun some favorites. Now, this isn't a Flames list. This is Pierre digging around, but it certainly fits the bill of names we've heard and guys we think have a chance. Mitch Love, absolutely the internal candidate we talked about at length just moments ago. Andrew Burnett, that fantastic season with the Panthers last year, helps New Jersey do a great season this year. Guy that's generally adored by all his former teammates and players, universally, I should say, not generally. And Gerard Gallant, who, I don't know, I feel like a bit of the shine's come off Gerard here after his firing in New York. It's been some short stays in his last few spots, although he's won a bunch, at least in the regular season in those places.
That's an interesting with Gallant, but he's not going to be scared. He's the limelight there, but I feel like just the coaching life of a Gerard Gallant, he comes in, he fixes it, and
not a long shelf life. It's kind of how I felt about Daryl, and then they gave him that extension. You're like, I thought 2.5 years would be perfect. You 4.5? Another 2 years? Who gave him that? Anyway, we know how that ended. 2.5 years was the roundabout time, even maybe too much for Daryl. And any other names you think of? I know Ryan Husk is a guy that I think is widely regarded as a professional consummate, like X's and O's, great human. Is it his time? Is he a career assistant? He's getting interviewed in some other places as well. I think he's a name that we're not hearing a bunch, but is a very real candidate for them as well. Do you know Huska at all?
I don't know Huska. I'm aware that, he was a Western League guy.
Kelowna guy.
He's earned his opportunity. I was just, thinking of guys that just kind of came from, that really didn't have the NHL experience. A mentor of mine is Jim Montgomery.
Yeah.
I think he was picked out of Denver when he was hired.
Guys, DU?
Yeah.
And then went to Dallas.
And,
man, so Jim, Jim, who went to Boston, had that incredible year. You played for Bruce, you said. He's still alive with Vegas. Looks like he's going to the final. That's some guys.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. Like you said, I've played everywhere, so I've pretty much met everyone.
I was going to say, being a suitcase helps, I guess.
Yeah.
Lots of coaches.
But with Huska, he's been there. Like he's seen everything. I think he knows the players better than anyone.
Yeah.
As assistant coach, you're relied upon, as the good cop. So that'll be hard
buffer.
that buffer. But your players, and you look at it is tough though to go from the good cop to the bad cop, and as a player you can see right through that. And so it'll be interesting. And another name that I was thinking of is Alex Tanguay, right?
Yeah, that's been floated. Obviously the relationship with Jerome and Connie. I wonder how you bring a guy in, and is it fair to plunk him right into head coach? I mean, it looks great when Marty St. Louis does it, but there's been some other spots where it doesn't. Maybe he comes in as a skill guy, roves around the organization, AHL, NHL. They're in the same city now, visit top prospects. Hey, we got a homestand. Come do some power play work with us. And then you really get to see the fiber of his fabric. Is this a head coach candidate?
It's, again, like, do you want someone proven like with this group, this veteran group? But also, what does it look beyond this year, right?
It's totally the conundrum they're in. And you and Rhett talked about it a bunch. I feel like they're somewhat handcuffed to at least run it back one more time. But I also feel like last year taught you some things, and it wasn't just Daryl. There's some other issues, and that you do have to think about, what do we look like in 4 years when we open a new rink, in theory? Where are we with young players? And this year you're trying to sort of serve both those masters, get younger and start turning over the roster, but also compete. Hard to walk that tightrope. And to be fair, you probably hire different coaches for a fully go this way or fully go that way.
Yeah. And it's exciting for the city, the new building, and it means a lot to players.
Yeah.
You want a good team, obviously, to when day one, that
you don't want to be old and last in the league.
You want to be an exciting group. And I feel that's important. But at the same time, you look at they were one save, one goal lead that they had, that they blew this year, that it could very well be them, in this Final Four.
That's what's so weird about this tournament. Everyone's like, they're not a contender if they get in. Well, Seattle was a game 7 away from being in the conference. No one said that all year. Florida, no one gave them a snowball's chance in hell against Boston in round 1. Never mind even getting in. They were out of the playoffs 72% of the season. Just get in and get hot.
I'm a biased Flames fan. Like I live and die with the Flames. And you look at Florida, I think they said the last couple of years, the teams that won the President's Trophy have gone on to win the Stanley Cup, or at least be in the Stanley Cup final.
It's a long time.
It's interesting. So like, it just 1 year doesn't necessarily mean you're doomed.
Yeah.
And with this group and the veterans they have pride. And I know I played with Markstrom, and he's a battler, man. He wants to prove himself. Like, he's very intense, and he's an ultimate teammate. So he wants to do whatever it takes for the city and for his teammates. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of team they march out this fall. Let's
go to the team that played last night. Overtime again in round 3. Round 2, all those blowouts. Round 3, overtime for everyone. Overtime for days. 2-2, Dallas and Vegas. Let's jump in.
Tied for the team lead in the regular season with
Power
13
play.
men up goals. Not available tonight. It comes down low. Hits all alone. Stopped by Hill.
Got a chance there.
Falling save. Heiskanen. They score! Joe Pavelski! A power play goal. And the Stars are still alive.
Joe Pavelski, 9 goals this postseason. 4 game winners, and hence what a gorgeous move there. Almost wins it there. Joe pretty good at hockey still. Didn't know it was going to go this way when that 3-year deal was signed leaving San Jose. You're like, oh boy, that's an old man at the end of that contract. Old man still good at hockey.
I got to play against Joe his first year. He got called up at the end of his college season, and then he was in Worcester.
Okay.
And I was good in faceoffs, and this guy ripped my wrist off. And you could tell he was going to be a good player in the next year, that Logan Couture.
Yeah.
But you talk about, I mentioned earlier, like, battle tested guys. He just grabbed them on his back, said, hey, we're not done. And I was listening to the NHL, all the different talk shows on the way here in from Saskatoon, and man, they were writing those guys off.
Yeah.
Like, they were already talking about the matchup between Vegas and Florida.
And to be fair, you got to win 4 in a row.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you've planted the seed of doubt.
Yep. The hardest one is that fourth one to win. And they're not going to go easy. They talked about how they want to play for their captain, and it was unfortunate or whatever with what happened with Jamie Benn. But there's a team that is playing for their captain, and when you have something to play for, and now it's their. I would, as a coach, I would just go in and play every single person. Every clip said, "Hey, these guys they think you're dead.
Yeah,
this is on you guys.
Us against the world.
Yeah.
Why not? You're down 3-1. You got to play the underdog card. You're not a favorite. Can't play that card.
We did that. We did that twice this year.
You did. And I want to ask you about that when we finish the Pinder Report. An incredible season you had with the Blades as assistant coach your first year there. Let's go to the all-time active playoff goals. This is incredible for Pavelski because he's been around, but whoa. So guys still in the league. Look where he's at. He's got more playoff goals than Ovechkin, more than Sidney Crosby. Same number of games as Sid, and he's got 2 more goals. This is some elite company, some rare air. 180 playoff games. My goodness.
It's wild. He gets better. He's like fine wine. He just gets better with age, and he's not a great skater, but he makes his living in front of the net in those dirty areas. And I'm going to say that goal was probably this year was probably one of the furthest out he's scored.
That's a fair point.
He's and you can see he's rubbed off on Robertson. You look at that goal yesterday. Mm-hmm. That was a beautiful goal, double deflection, and that's what you're gonna have to do is get dirty goals, timely goals, and he's leading by example.
Here's what I know about Stanley Cup final. Florida's in it, and when it starts and who they play, well, still to be determined. So if we see the Knights win Game 5, we'll get started on May 31. So that's all of a sudden pretty quick. What, midweek next week? Is that right?
It's Wednesday.
So boom, we're right into the final. Now, if it goes 6 or 7, so AKA if you see a Dallas win in Game 5, all of a sudden we're jumping ahead a while. Could have a bigger gap there, but also maybe we see 7. Who knows? That's from John Bouchigra of ESPN. So interesting note there. And I want to run this past you. This is fascinating. So the CHL in Europe, people don't really know Champions League hockey, but it's the exact same as soccer or football. You take teams from all these different leagues, be it teams playing in England, Austria, Sweden, Norway, France, whatever, and they can all play each other. Here's some of the rule changes they've done. I love this stuff. Traditionalists, some people hate it, don't change the rules. Here are the rule changes that aren't proposed. They're going to happen starting next season, I believe. If you score on a minor penalty, the penalty keeps going. It's still 2 minutes. Love that. It shades to more offense. It also makes you, again, boy, I really shouldn't take that penalty. It could even be more painful to my team. Secondly, if there's a delayed penalty and you score, you still get the power play. Don't mind that either. Again, we're shading towards offense, which I like in the game. Other people, maybe not. And here's an even better wrinkle that, blow my mind. Hadn't thought of this one. The other two we've talked about a long time. Score shorthanded, penalties off the board. It's like the get out of jail key.
As a coach, I'm just thinking now, how could we add some offense into our penalty killer, right? So any type of 50-50 puck, let's send that guy and we're putting it off the glass and let's go, right? Yeah. And it makes hockey exciting. And I'm all for these. Like the European hockey, obviously bigger ice.
Yeah. So scoring's a little lower.
A little slower. So I think they want to make sure that but for the NHL, it would make it exciting. And there's some really smart hockey players that know how to cheat, when to cheat, and when the opportunity to put the puck in the net. And why not? If you could, you send your captain or your top scorer is in the penalty box and your penalty kill guys like, hey, I got you, right? So
that's right. Free them. Let's go.
Let's let them out.
And look, NHL doesn't have to. That may seem really radical to some people. Others are like, let's give it a go. Try it in the American League for a few years. Just pay attention. See how it works over there.
Yeah.
And like, are fans loving it? Is it like, whoa, this is like, people will not avert their eyes, shorthanded or power play. It feels like, is it too much power given to special teams? Those are all things you'll learn by watching this.
It's interesting. And the American League's the number one. I remember we were the first league to, the 3-on-3 overtime, right? So, and then it just gravitated and now it's in the NHL. So it'll be interesting to what they do.
And everything evolves too, right? The first time we saw 3-on-3, it's the greatest ever. And now we see 3-on-3s where it's like reload. The blue lines.
That's coaching now though.
The coaches have got their paws on it.
They got their paws on it.
As we said, the coaches will always find a way to smother the offense than anything. So now what do you do? Do you do more 3-on-3? Something else you can do? Or do you leave the game as is? Let's go to NBA. You a hoops guy or no?
I'm a hoops guy.
Because this TNT panel they've had for years with Shaq, and Chuck is phenomenal. It's Celtics Heat. Celtics win last night, so now it's a 3-2 series. But here's Chuck trying to do a Boston accent. This is quite special. I know that Chuck's from Boston.
I saw Annie at Fenway Park eating chowder on top of the monster.
No, not at all.
Try it one more time, Chuck.
Yeah.
I saw Annie at Fenway Park eating chowder on top of the monster.
Yo, why y'all doing this to this guy, man?
Come on, man.
What's his name,
That was a hard one. Annie.
Arnie.
The word you really had trouble with was my name.
Annie.
Is that how you say my name in Boston?
I saw Annie
Hey, Arnie.
eating at Fenway Park eating chowder on top of the monster.
Let's hear a real Bostonian say it.
I gotta hear this.
Saw Ernie at Fenway Park eating chowder on top of the monster.
That sounds just like me. No, hey, Ernie.
Charles is a legend.
It's I obviously being drafted by Boston, you get to hear the actual, like, our thing was you're trying to park your car in winter. We're in a winter parka.
Yeah, I think Goodwill Hunting was a lot of people's introduction. Like, oh wow,
Yeah, how do you like them apples, right?
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that series, it was 3-0 Miami, just like it was 3-0 Panthers in the NHL side. Boston's won 2 in a row, and look at this. Like, we're not even money, but there's a lot of people thinking there's some juice in that Celtics comeback in that series. Plus 120. I have to dance on that a little later. We'll see. Memorial Cup starts tonight. A great day for you to be in, a Western League assistant coach. You've seen Seattle. You're obviously familiar with Kamloops, the host. What is this tournament in this city look and feel like? Is this like a slam dunk for you to put it in a market like Kamloops?
I think so. You know, Kamloops has such a rich tradition, particularly Western Hockey League. The fan bases, they really get behind that, and you're going to get fans from all over. When we hosted in Vancouver, you met people from all over Canada just come. It's an event.
It's kind of like Grey Cup, to be honest.
Exactly.
No matter where you're in the country, you might go every year. It's an annual trip, something like that.
And they're not bringing in a team that's hosting that's not very good. They could easily, 1 or 2 moves here that they could have beat Seattle. So they got some good players, and they won't look out of place at all.
And you said Seattle, like, wagon.
They're really good. We played Winnipeg, and they had a really good players. Like Winnipeg, Kamloops, and Seattle made those big deals at the deadline to load up specifically for this. But Seattle, just the depth, the coaching, everything, they're favorite. I don't know too much about Peterborough or Quebec, but I know with Quebec, Patty Roy is going to make sure his team is ready.
Speaking of Patty Roy, we have an intrepid reporter at the Memorial Cup, fan of the show. I don't want to out our guest, but took this photo of Pat Roy, I think. Now, maybe someone snuck in for the free food at the press conference, and that's them in front of Patrick Roy's nameplate. But Patty, mixing a nap buddy. Did they pull him off the plane there?
I feel like when you've won that much,
you can
do whatever you want. So I'm a big Patty Roy fan, and he's definitely, he looks like a man that's
a little disheveled,
that's prepared.
You'd be fighting me for bottles in the alley looking like that. Jeez. Okay, last one for you. Here's your schedule. Obviously, everyone play each other, and away we go. It starts tonight with the Blazers hosting the Rampart and what are we calling them? Ali Wah. Bottle Depot, Pat Wah. That goes tonight. Tomorrow you get Seattle against the Petes. Then it's the Blazers. 1 game a day. It's going to be a lot of fun. They build in that extra day for a tiebreaker if needed. Semis go July 2nd and the finals on the 4th. If you're a Western League guy, do you just have to pull for the Western League teams now?
I think so. Yeah. You want your team, your league, to prove that you're the best. And those 2 teams, they'll be there, I think, at least semifinal, final. Again, I don't know Peterborough, but it's kind of a death curse for the team to make the final. And wait. Yeah. We played Plymouth in the semifinal. We beat them, and Medicine Hat was sitting there for 2 or 3 days, and we just had momentum going in. So it's interesting to see how teams prepare for that. And you're basically playing 3 or 4 game 7s, right?
Yeah.
So every win counts, and it's the best on best. And I think it's the hardest trophy to win in sports.
Last couple items here in the Pinder Report. Calvary FC on the road this weekend. They take on York. The tie-in, it's Tommy's old assistant, Martin Nash, coaching York. He's Steve Nash's brother, and both love soccer. Steve owns a piece of the Whitecaps. There's the table. York in 5th, and Calvary with that big win last weekend, undefeated through 6. 5 draws, finally got a win, And yeah, all of a sudden you're like, hey, another 3 points. Look pretty good in the standings there. Have you been to a game out here yet or no?
I was just going to ask, I'm not a big football fan. I'm a big Ted Lasso fan.
Yeah, so you're
and
coming around
being in Europe, I kind of picked up a little bit, but I've always wanted to go see one of these games. You recommend
give me a heads up when you're in town.
I will. Thank you.
My treat.
Yep.
By my treat, I mean like maybe Calvary's treat. I'll find someone. I'll get some blackmail
sure
on there and away we go.
There
right?
you go.
Awesome. Finally, we got you're a living proof of it. But we have fans. We're so lucky the work that we've done together, Boom, Rhett, myself. No matter where people are in the world, they seem to tag along. We heard from Aussie Brad earlier this week, Jack. We've you noted you listened to the show in Norway. Take a look here. This is the Bahamas. And if you look really closely on the peninsula there by that incredible, clear, beautiful, crystal blue water, it looks like some sort of a rink there. Now it's hot. It's the Bahamas. So there you are. Okay. It looks like that's some sort of a sport court type playing surface, not ice. And what do we have on the ice? There's our boy. Is that Matt? Is it Matt or Mike, our boy that sent the photos in? There's the Barn Burner t-shirt from the Bahamas. Bermuda, sorry.
You sure it's not Lake Bonavista?
I kept saying Bahamas. It's Bermuda. Damn it. Really, I'm trying to give them all love and I put them in the wrong country. Barn Burner t-shirts are available on nationgear.ca. If you want to rep them somewhere interesting around the world, let's go. I want this to be like idiots wearing rider jerseys at sporting events all over North America. I want to
Wall of China. If you're there,
that's
throw your Barn Burner shirt on.
Like think about it. If we had done this at a different time, you could have been wearing a Barn Burner shirt in Japan, Norway, Czech Republic,
Romania.
Was it Croatia for a while?
Croatia.
Oh my God.
Italy.
That's right. Florida, 1,000 different places.
Yeah.
Need to get some marketing on your suitcase.
I honestly never took advantage of my flight. Like I had Aeroplan, never took advantage of it. Dude. I think I should have now. I don't know if can you go back and
if you haven't claimed them now, it's
too late.
I think they probably give you a year to claim something like that.
Yeah,
oh man,
it's been a while,
dude. You'd have. I'm not going to tell you.
Hopefully my wife isn't listening. We're supposed to go on our honeymoon. That would have been that would have helped.
It's like, I only got enough to get us to Hawaii and back 8 times. Come on, Wacey. What are you doing? Okay. I wish I had Rhett here for this one because his wife sent a picture of their bank account. I don't know if there's some sort of accounting glitch or if the credit card payments are high, but I've never seen a number like this before. The Warner family, that's like 99 billion. Rhett, how are you going to pay that off? Imagine logging into your app and seeing those numbers. That's where's the help number? This can't be right.
I feel like it's just an instant jammer. Your heart just sinks right into your stomach and you're done.
Good night, sweet prince. And finally, my spirit animal was found on the internet. There's the hype. Is it platform boots, Jack? What's he wearing there? I don't know. There's some serious height though.
You love a good high kick, right?
It's a great party trick.
So do you stretch before you go out? Like, are you making sure your hamstrings are?
Look, it's only a party trick if you can do it drunk and you don't need to stretch.
Okay, well there you go. Yeah.
That's your Pinder Report on a Friday. I don't know that I need to know who Spartacus is, nor the lady in the wig there, but there we go. Again, for Village Honda, detailing packages from as little as $79. Get all the gunk out of your car, Wacey. You get all that winter junk, the rubber mats. Let's get to the nice soft fur stuff. They'll do it. All the inside, all the outside. Get spring and winter off your car. Get ready for summer. VillageHonda.com. I want to ask you, I wish Rhett was here. You probably, more than anyone else, would have a scouting report from a coach's eye on Connor Bedard.
Oh.
You saw the guy 9 games in a row, if I'm correct, last 2 of the regular season, 7-game series against Regina. Take me back to the end of the year, knowing you were going to play Bedard and the Pats at some point, and then that series, like that I don't know that those rinks and those fan bases have been stirred up like that in decades.
We have a scouting report, and I also have PTSD from Connor Bedard. And I think some of our defensemen do.
PTSD.
Which was funny that we were trying to figure out who we clinched second. We had 2 games. Our final 2 games were against Regina, and knowing that we were going to play them. So we
So you knew you had the Pats.
We knew we had the Pats.
And you had them the last two games.
Last two games of the year. And, for us, we just let the boys play, go out, enjoy yourselves. And then when I think it was probably like we have the keys to our playoffs, and we called it the head of the snake, that if you can take away Connor Bedard, that we have a better chance of winning. And we were down 2-0 quick. And I felt really bad for our defensemen.
2-0 at home.
2-0 at home.
Yes. So again, to remind people, because we talked about it on the show, Bedard and the 7 seeds come in and they win 2 games in Saskatoon. So now you're in this hole and you have to go on the road.
Yeah. And honestly, like you can try, and it's basically like defending McDavid. Like you give him time and space, he's going to make a move around you or make a play around you. You try and take time and space away, and you're ending up on a podcast or, on Instagram. And I felt bad for some of our defensemen.
Yeah.
I would tell them, hey, like, I promise you in 5 years, this is going to be one of your stories that you're telling around the fire, around your friends.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate it's happening to you now, but
survive this.
Yeah, just survive. But honestly, to tell a story about Connor after, I think it was game 6 that game 5, we were in Saskatoon. We were at the practice rink, and we practiced after them. And we were probably about 45 minutes, half an hour after the ice time, just to give them respect if they're working on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He was still at the rink signing autographs for some young men and women. And he took his time, as long as whoever there, he took every single autograph, whatever they had, he needed. And it kind of just what type of person he is. Cause you can see the player is going to be a really good player.
Yeah.
And like you just have so much respect for a person like that.
Yeah.
You talk about, being a true professional. He's probably knew that he was going to play in the NHL at 14.
Yeah.
So he's prepared. And I feel like his career will fall somewhere in between. Worst case scenarios, like you look at a Steven Stamkos, and best case is Connor McDavid. Like, this is how good this kid is. He's all right. You want to play in the mud and in the trenches. I can do that. All right. You want to skill it up. I can do that. He can play wing. He can play center. He's good defensively. Like he's only 5'10", but he's a rattlesnake.
Wow.
He's the real deal.
Scary. And yeah, they'll sell some tickets in Chicago.
Yeah.
They already have. What was it, the first 2 hours? They had millions in season ticket sales. My God.
Yeah.
At least he's out of division for the Flames.
And out of the Western Hockey League. Out of the Western Hockey League for me.
For Flames fans, it's like, yeah, Chicago comes at least once a year, sometimes twice. That'll be great.
Yeah.
And don't need to see it until round 3 if those things ever happen.
That's what we did. We shook his hand. Hey, good luck. Get out of here. Good. Wish you nothing but the best.
Go
Thank
to
you
another
for not
league.
coming back to the Western
Stop
Hockey
terrorizing
League.
this
Exactly.
league. I think he's done in that league. Yeah. I think that's not a bold take. Wacey, been fun hanging out with you.
No, I've been waiting to come in. It's exciting. And I messaged Boom when you guys were, transitioning.
Yep.
And that you guys, honestly, for a Calgary kid that's been away from home, it was tough. Like I said, I'd be in Japan, and it would be middle of the night there, and you guys would just be waking up, or it'd be middle of the day, and you guys, like, my family wouldn't be up. So you guys, your podcast, made sure that while I was homesick or I felt like I was alone, I was never alone, because you guys were there and get to hear your voice. And you guys are true professionals. And I'm just, I'm very proud to be here, and I'm very proud to be from Calgary in Alberta. And, Ryan, you're a good man.
We're proud that you came in and we got guys like you listening.
Yes.
It's pretty amazing. We do stuff to have fun and, try to make each other laugh, and that guys like yourself enjoy it. That's the highest of compliments. Before we get out of here, we got Betway Bets of the day. Let's do that, as we've got World Championships over in Riga, Latvia, and Tampere, Finland. Have you been to both these countries? Probably.
I've never been to Finland. Never been to Latvia.
So you played in Norway.
Yeah.
And they're right there. That's close.
It's like traveling from Alberta to Manitoba.
Right? Yeah. So
do you want to go to Manitoba?
You kind of just were throwing darts at the world. You somehow got to Japan and then back over to Europe. It's amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Canada, Latvia is one of the semifinals. The other is USA, Germany. We're talking about 2 major underdogs in Latvia and Germany getting all the way through to the semis. Canadians and Americans, heavy favorites. 4 Flames in action. Toffoli, Uyghur, and Lucic for Canada. Obviously, Matt Coronado, the lone Flame on Team USA. I'm focusing on tomorrow morning's games. This is Canada -2.5. The puck line against Latvia. Beat them pretty good in round robin play. It was early on. They're clearly the more skilled roster. They are going to have to deal with a lot of Latvian fans, and they're crazy. but I just think talent going to prove out here. The Cinderella story. At some point, the carriage turns into the pumpkin. I'm guessing it's tomorrow for Latvia. And I'm going to jump on a Tyler Toffoli anytime goal plus 150. He's starting to heat up, putting the puck in the net as this tournament comes to a close. That's plus 150 if he scores at any point in the game. Betway, get the app. Be in Ontario, 19 plus. Bet the responsible way. What else do we have to hit today? I feel like it's a weekend. We're good. GTFO.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Rhett would say Oilers suck. Go Cats. Wacey, thanks for being here. Best of luck next year. How are we, real quick, you turning over a bunch of roster? You bringing a bunch of guys back, or is it sort of a mix there for what the Blades are looking at?
No, we're just losing our 320s, so there's going to be some expectation to put another good roster onto the ice. So we're excited, and the city is buzzing. And when I come through and play the Hitman, hopefully you can stop by and I'll get you a ticket or two.
Love it. Would love to grab lunch or something like that next when you pass through town. Have a great summer. Hope you get that honeymoon figured out. Don't mention the lack of frequent flyer points. And again, appreciate you coming in. Thanks for the swag. We all got Blades hoodies. We got you a Barn Burner hoodie. We need you to take that around the world with you.
Good way to start our weekend, right?
All right. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again on Monday. Full boat should be Boomer, Rhett back from Nashville potentially, or there if his kid makes the final, and myself as well. Jack, thank you. Appreciate it. Wacey, always great seeing you. Talk next week.